Hey everyone. So I normally don't do these kind of hot take videos, but I just watched the Final Fantasy VII live stream like most of the rest of you have, I'm sure. And just felt like I had to say some things off the top of my head before I really had time to, overanalyze everything. So, it's pretty cool what they're doing with the mobile games and everything. I wasn't really planning on playing Ever Crisis because I'm usually not a fan of those kind of mobile games. But I got to admit, the new costumes by the characters all look kind of cool. I mean, Aerith is a white mage. Cloud kind of has his samurai getup going on. Of course, the young Sephiroth. People are already talking on Twitter about that. Now, that's going to be interesting. And it kind of looks like, because it's so all-inclusive, Ever Crisis is probably going to include maybe some background information that we haven't seen before, maybe expand the story a bit. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. And as for the Crisis Core remake, I'm also kind of looking forward to that because I never played Crisis Core. I didn't have, it was released on like the PSP or something like that. It was like a mobile game from like the mid 2000s. I kind of wasn't really playing video games back then. I was in college at the time. And so I never really got a chance to play it. I only really know about it through osmosis, through what other people have said online. It's generally well regarded. I've certainly seen some of the cutscenes from it and everything. So it'll be nice to really just get to play it. Obviously the next gen graphics will be cool and everything, but like I've noticed that a lot of people who are fans of Final Fantasy VII nowadays only really know it from the remake. A lot of people, because the first one came out in 1997, a really long time ago. If you were a kid when you played that, you'd be in your mid to late 30s nowadays, like I am. And so a lot of the younger people who are fans of Final Fantasy VII only really know it through the remake. And I think that with Crisis Core, it'll be interesting because I will only know it through the remake because I'll be the only one who had played it through the remake. And so it'll be kind of interesting to kind of have that position reverse where I can kind of talk to the veterans, the people who know that game from the original and kind of pick their brain about, oh, what did they change? What did they not change? How is this better? How is that worse? So I'm looking forward to that too. And then, of course, there's the remake part 2, or should I say Rebirth, little mini trailer that they just dropped. And I'm sure that's what pretty much everyone is very concerned about now. So I had a couple thoughts on that. It started off with Aerith giving that voiceover talking about how the past is set, but we can still change the future. Even if the future is written, we don't have to accept it. She says something along those lines. I think that there's two takeaways we can take from that. One of them is that obviously I think the story in Rebirth is going to be quite a bit different than the story was from Final Fantasy VII. Quite a lot of events are going to be changed. We kind of all already knew that based on the whole killing the fates thing from the original remake. And I think we should see a lot of that, expect to see a lot of that expanded upon in the future ones. Some events are going to be very different, maybe even completely indistinguishable from the events from remake. I think there's probably going to be new characters or characters from the compilation that kind of come in, and events are just going to play out very, very differently from what we expect. I think it's going to be kind of exciting, to be honest. Because when we finally get a chance to play Rebirth, when it comes out in winter of 2023, as we're playing it, pretty much every new scene is going to be like kind of an adventure, like, ooh, what's going to happen next? And it's going to be real interesting to see that. But also, I think her line, Aerith's line about focus on the future, not the past, I think that's directed towards us, the fans, because you know how there was kind of that whole meta commentary thing with the Fates as, those were the fans who want things to never change. And so they're going to go to extremes to kind of force things to play out the way they are, even when those things lead to like the death of characters like Jesse and things like that. And how, the game ends with basically the player killing the surrogate of those kinds of fans. So I think that was a very sort of pointed thing Aerith was saying, focus on the future, not the past. Basically saying that, Rebirth is going to be a brand new kind of thing. It's going to be its own thing. Focus on what we do differently. Don't get hung up on the past and how it's maybe different from the past. I think by this point, most fans are kind of okay with the fact that Remake is, different from the original in many ways, but apparently the developers felt the need to sort of re-emphasize that point, which kind of makes me think that some of the changes are going to be quite massive indeed. And then the trailer kind of moves on where we get kind of a brief scene of Cloud and Sephiroth going into Nibelheim during the flashback, I think. I'm pretty sure it's Nibelheim. Some people maybe said other things, but it's like the very jagged mountains you notice in the background. I think that's a pretty clear indication that is Nibelheim, because remember from the original, they kind of had those weird craggy mountains that were expressed as well as 1997 graphics could. And so now we're dealing with, 2023 graphics, basically, that are going to kind of express that design as well as it should be. So I'm pretty sure it's them going to Nibelheim. And then there's that little back and forth between Cloud and Tifa, and Tifa says something like, I was laying dead. You thought I was an imposter or something. Not entirely sure what to make of that. Kind of just my initial impression is that that's just sort of a red herring, because we all know, what Cloud ends up being from the original game. But that's sort of suggested in Remake, but it's not really brought to the forefront in Remake. So I kind of feel like that's sort of just a suggestion of that, of, oh, are you imposter? Are you say who you are? It could be that they're going for something a little more extreme, where like the Tifa we played as in Remake is not the real Tifa or something, but I kind of don't think they're going in that direction. And it's also kind of interesting seeing that Aerith's spirit, I guess, for lack of a better word, can kind of be seen in different periods of time. She can kind of look into the past, maybe even look into the future and stuff, which is kind of similar to what was implied about her powers in the original game, but they seem to be making this much more explicit. It seems pretty clear to me that in this version, Zack has survived, and I think he's going to show up in the flesh, in the person, in Rebirth. I think he's going to maybe join the party. At the very least, they're going to try to play it up for some of the romantic triangle thing with him and Aerith and Cloud. So that will be interesting to see, but I'm pretty darn sure he's going to show up. In fact, I'm almost willing to bet money that at some point, maybe 6 months, a year from now or whatever, when they start dropping additional trailers, we're going to see the scene where Aerith gets killed and like Zack's going to rush in to save her, and like he's going to get stabbed instead or something. I really have a feeling that's going to happen, but it seems pretty obvious by now that Zack is going to be a major character in Rebirth. So there certainly is that. And I guess that's really all I had to say. Just also the name Rebirth instead of Remake Part 2. That seems to be a pretty on-the-nose thing of saying, well, this is a rebirth, a remaking of it. Not a remaking, a rebirth. It's going to be reborn. The game itself is going to be reborn. So to me, that implies more changes than simply a remake. So kind of, again, I've mentioned this before, but I would just expect there to be just a ton of differences between the Final Fantasy VII we know from 1997 and the Rebirth that's going to be happening here in 2023. So those are just some of my thoughts. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about that. What was your favorite part of the live stream? What was your least favorite part? Do you have concerns? Do you think the franchise is heading in the right direction, wrong direction, whatever? Let me know what you guys think. Talk to you later. Bye.